Good morning. This is Bruce from Suncoast Fly Tires. Today we're going to photograph, or we're going to make the Mylar Mullet fly for you. It's a great snook type fly. I'm showing you a version of it right here. The one I'm going to tie for you today is the same fly, but we're going to tie it in chartreuse. So I'm going to take and wrap my thread, which I use in a chartreuse, or a white would be fine. But I'm going to wrap from the hook eye back to the point of the hook. And as you notice, on this fly, I'm tying this in a 1/0 circle hook. A 1/0 in a regular size short shank hook would work fine. But anyway, what we're going to do is apply the tail first. And if you can see the amount of material I'm taking right here, is I'm going to trim this off. And what I'm using is the chartreuse, and this is a Steve Ferrard. It has a flash built into it. It eliminates a step, otherwise you can use a synthetic or deer hair and mix your own flash into it. I want this to be approximately 2 hook shanks in length. So based on my hook shank here, I'm going to bring the tail out to here. So I'm going to put it on. This is about the length I'm going to want right here. Let me trim this off. Now, I'll lay this down on top of the hook shank, and I give it 2 light wraps. Do not pull on it. See here, I've got 2 wraps easily. Now what I'm going to do is push down on it and work the fibers around the shank of the hook, so they're not laying on top. They're wrapped completely around it. Now I'm going to wind them forward to where I have them. I'm going to bring them right back to the hook point, which would be good there. Now, the second step, there's only 3 or 4 steps in this fly. It's fairly easy to tie. I'm going to take about a 5-inch piece of Palmer chenille medium. And what I'm going to do also is, if you can see the fibers here, I'm going to cut about, 1/4 inch of the little fibers off, so I can have a blunt piece of thread there. I'm going to lay it right on top. And I'm going to wrap it right around there for me. And then I'm going to bring my thread to the forward position, which will be my next position to tie. And I'm going to palmer this onto the hook shank with the material facing back, and I'm palmering the thread forward. So I'm going to palmer back with material and work the thread forward over the hook shank as I go. So as you can see, I'm simply wrapping this around with all the material dropping back. Here we are. And so I'm going to bring this right up to the front, within 1 or 2 wraps of touching the hook eye right here. Now I'm going to take my excess here, and I'm going to wrap this off 10 times just behind the hook eye. Then I'm just going to take my scissors, and I'm going to snip it here, trim the excess here. Okay. Now simply, I'm going to take a couple of half hitches here. You can tie it off in whatever knot you prefer. I'm just an old guy that learned on half hitches and have a hard time doing anything else. but it works well. Now I've gotten that, I'm going to take a little of the very thin epoxy, and I'm going to touch it right on top of my thread wraps. I'm going to hit it with the light and let it set. It takes 10 seconds to set, so I've got a few seconds on here. Now I'm going to snip this off. I'm going to turn it over. Just trim this up a little bit. Got a little sloppy here, so to correct that, I'm just going to take a little torch and burn those right off, and that clears my eye right up. Now I have that on here. Now my next step is going to be, I'm going to put on some eyes. And I'm going to use, let me see what I've got here. This is a red and gold combination. These are 5.5 millimeter eyes in size. Color and stuff is of your choice. I prefer the reds in color. As a kid, I grew up using mirror lures, and they always came with red eyes, and I've just been partial to red eyes because they've always worked for me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little of this Fletch Tight Premium. This material is not a fly tying material. It is on the market to put feathers onto arrows. It's very, very strong. I've always used it on my eyes. It's a glue that works well. I've never had a problem with my eyes coming off. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back just at the thread and forward. Put a dab on that side and a dab on this side. Now I'm going to take my eyes, and these eyes are pear-shaped, and what I've been told about the pear-shaped eyes is that you put the narrow end forward and the wider end back. So I've got it here. I'm going to bring it in right above the cement that I put on. And do not let the eye stick down to the bottom part of the hook. Put it on the hook shank and above, because if you let it hang down too far, you'll change the gap of the hook, and you want to leave the gap of the hook as wide as possible. So that's why I keep the eye towards the top. You can see there, I'm going to put the one on the other side now. Same thing. Take that, bring it on just opposite, put it right here. I push it on with a little empty ball pen because it gives me something to get pressure on without getting glue on my fingers. And when you get it on your fingers, and it's all over the eyes and they're messed up before you know it. So as you can see here, I've got this eye on, this eye on. I'm going to let it set a second. I'm going to take a little thin epoxy, and I'm going to put some on in between the eyes, right in here. Actually, I'm going to use this dispenser. It's easier to put it on in there, so I'm going to put on some epoxy right in the middle here. And what I'm going to do from that point is set it with this. And for the expediency of what we're doing, I'm going to show it there. I will add epoxy above the eyes in between, below the eyes in between, and a very light coat over top of the eyes, and it's brought out over the thread wrap. Once you get that done, You're now in business. As you can see here, there's a nice look at the fly. I'll take it here and bring it back. Not difficult to make, and a great